Hey, what is up everybody? Blades for here and today for you guys another video of Persona Phantom X. Oh Jesus, it's gonna be weird getting used to saying that. But in today's video, you guys, we're gonna be going over every last character in their kit, as well as the guides that ended up making for all of them. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's been at least I want to say 2 days since I've covered some Persona 5 content, so this was long in coming. But we're gonna get straight into it. I gotta say this took a while, which explains why this took so long, but let's get to it. Alrighty, so going ahead and get into it, as I did say, it's been at least around say 2 days, 3 days since our last video here, in which you guys absolutely loved. So we're coming back with another video here, and in this one we're gonna be showing off some guides. Now, this has been a thing in the making that I've been doing for the past, I want to say, week now, but today I knocked out majority of them, as well as yesterday, and we're all finished with every last character that is in this game. So it's actually very interesting to finally be done with everything regarding this game, for at least the characters that will be on drop. As many of us do know, the Chinese version is going to be dropping for its open beta very soon, and then we have the Taiwan version dropping on the 18th. So I thought it would be fine to hurry up and get you guys out some unit guides here, tell you exactly what these guys do. It is going to be a very long video. I'm gonna try and shorten it as much as possible, but yeah, I think only 4 of them have actual teams. The rest are going to be teams in the making, which we'll be doing as what's it called, time goes by on here. But if you guys want to get these guys, either join the Discord to get them. Of course, there's going to be a lot of Persona 5X fans in Discord as well very soon, and then of course check out my Twitter if you guys want these anyways. But first things first, the man Joker himself. Okay, so Joker is very interesting. He is a cursed DPS who's mainly like a mix of AoE slash single targets here. He has curse damage all over here, and which can actually give him some stacks of something called Evil Key. Now, these small little things here that we have for at least Joker, or at least the new little effects, we won't really know exactly what they do just yet until of course the game drops here. But he's able to of course deal some nice damage on his first skill, doing as an AoE damage here. This costs 19 SP, and of course his second skill is around a single target damage here with 19 SP, which dealing curse damage equal to 96% to one enemy, in which this can actually give him 2 stacks of that new little I want to say buff, I'm gonna say, that he actually can get, called Evil Key on himself. Now of course, per the amount of evil keys that you do have on him, if you guys check over to his passives on the right here, he does give himself a power boost, and it really will be that type of move set that he's going to be a really hard heavy hitter. Now, unlike all the characters here, he actually does have some crazy damaging moves here, and his single target ones are going to be the ones that's going to deal the craziest amount of damage. But if we go ahead and look at his other one, which is an AoE damage that costs 22 SP, which is Doom Chase, you actually can do 52.5% attack to all enemies here. And during the extra turn here, you're actually allowed to have any damage with this, increasing your skill damage up by 25%. Now, of course, if they have a debuff effect, which you can apply with other units, of course, he gets himself an additional 25%, which is absolutely amazing. Now, I ended up actually adding in the curse damage, of course, for different characters as well, or at least the 1 more effects here. And then, of course, his highlight, which is going to be the main thing that we guys are going to be looking at here, allows him to deal damage to all enemies, even though I'm pretty positive that was supposed to be a single target move, but I think it's an AoE move here as well, which is able to deal damage to all enemies and obtain Evil Key, which is very interesting, seeing that you're now getting a ton of stacks for your attack power, which is absolutely amazing. Now, secondary passive does give him damage cause, which during the extra turn is going to be now increased by 33%. I didn't add any of the dupe passives. That would be for a different video when I get actual things made for this, so hang on tight for that. But we do have the breakdown, of course, of things at the top, being the overview for information, attack, HP, speed, blitz effect, which is going to be your crit damage, and then the strike rate, which is going to be your crit rate here. Now, EV is pretty much the energy value, so if you guys do want to know what the energy value for most of these characters are, I'm gonna just straight up tell you they're all 100. But going on to the next character, we didn't have one of the first healers here that popped up in the game, and that is going to be Mona. He's going to be one of the free ones that you can have, and he actually does have a team already made here. His information, as you can tell at the top, is pretty interesting. Attack is very low, but he does have defense and HP to make up for it here, which he's a little bit of a mixture. He has some Gale attacks, while he also has a nice heal as well, being an AoE heal, which is his strong suit. And then, of course, if you guys have played Persona 5 itself, you have Miracle Fist, which can deal some decent damage. But each time you use it, the hit rate is going to be reduced, but it is going to be very, very interesting, being that, of course, while using this here, you're able to actually get up your crit rate. So that's very, very interesting that each time you use it, yeah, you may dip down a little bit in the hit accuracy type of deal, but you are going to be getting that extra crit rate up to start hitting as high as possible. Now, alongside of this, of course, he has his fighting technique, which is going to be his highlight, dealing some nice wind damage, which is pretty decent. And he actually comes with a revive, so surely do think about that if you're going to use this character. Now, with at least his passives, he has one called Confidence and one called Detention. Detention gives him at least an aura, which can reduce some damage here as well, or reduce energy drain for all of your companions. And then, of course, Confidence will actually affect the intuition part of his actual skills here, which you will see that on his skill 2, where he can gain intuition, or either on the skill 3 where he gains that intuition. And this actually helps you recover additional HP based on the amount of damage or power that he has in his kit. Now, alongside this, we do have a team for him in which you definitely want to run him with Lett here, in which would be absolutely amazing for you. It's actually a really, really good team when it does come down to his combo space here. And then, of course, you have a flex person in the middle. Now, as for the other one on the bottom, of course, this is going to be a whole flex team in general, where you have, of course, a healer, a DPS, and then anything else in your slot. So that will help you out in the long run. Now, going into Panther and Carmen here. Panther and Carmen's very, very interesting. They are one of the few characters that actually I'm kind of interested in. She is a freebie character. I think we went over them in a different video as well. With some decent stats to boot. Nothing too crazy. She is a slower character, seeing that she is 94 speed, but she gets the job done. Now, she's able to, of course, have a decent bit of AoEs on here. It does take up some horrible amount of SP. As you can tell, it's 20 SP, 20 SP, and then the other one is 22. But with each of these here, she's actually able to burn with most of her skills as well, inflicting some fire damage here. Oh my god, that was a terrible voice crack. But inflicting some fire damage there as well. Now, with her first skill, she actually introduces something new in her kit, which is a subconscious state. When she's in this state here, she's actually able to deal some more damage as well. And then she has an additional new thing on her first skill, being high roll, in which if she's able to have a high roll here, she actually can boost her damage by 8%. That can actually last for 2 rounds, so it can be very, very destructive. So surely do keep that in mind. Now, going into her other skills, of course, as I did say, she does have another new little thing here, which is called Submerged State, in which when having in that state, or at least the enemies being below 50%, and you're in that state, you're able to deal 50% more damage. It's actually kind of crazy to see what she actually has here. I think in total she has 3 different states, one of them being subliminal, in which this one is allowing you to actually attack or release your attack power. It gets increased by 50% whenever an enemy is getting burned here, with a nice chance of 50%, which is already nice. You're going to be dealing some crazy decent damage here. Now, alongside that, you do have her fighting technique, which is really, really good as well. Seeing that she's dealing some nice fire damage over here, and it does last for at least 1 turn that they can be burned for, so surely you know that. Now, with her passive, she has Thermal Distress, one of them being increased damage in a burning state here for the enemy. And then, of course, Solace over here, which at the end of her dive state, another state that she actually has, she's able to restore 15% of her damage to a companion with the lowest HP. So pretty much if they have, with the leftover 15% of her damage, she's actually allowed to use that to actually heal a different person as well. So it's actually really, really nice to have. Now, for this character, you're going to want to be sure to use a burn team, which is going to be the top team, or no, the bottom team actually at the bottom right there, in which will help you use some burn methods here. You could use technically the top team as the burn method team as well, but the bottom one kind of gives you a little bit more of a freebie selection, because you have those 2 and then you can kind of pick and choose. The top one, of course, helps you out with some burns as well, but is mainly just to give you a little bit of that heal as well to keep your team all afloat. Now, of course, if we go ahead and take a look at the star attraction, the one I know I'm getting from my freebie pulls here is going to be Skull and Captain Kid. Now, Skull and Captain Kid is a very, very interesting kid, or at least kid in general, in which this one is going to be more of your actual DPS slash destructive team here. Now, I can't lie when I say with Skull and Captain Kid, they're going to be more of the heavy hitters. Of course, if you don't want to go with what's it called? You don't want to go with Panther, if you don't want to go with Zoro, or sorry, I keep calling him Zoro, Morgana here, you would end up actually using Skull. Now, I will say, if you can get Skull and Panther, you're already in a good situation here, and that's just because they're overall crazy DPSs here. But with Skull here, he actually has a lot of single damage hits. He is a single target DPSer here who really strives in the physical damage thing. Now, he does have an electric damage move as well, which does reduce a little bit of things as well. But his main deal is going to be using his HP in order to deal a lot more damage. Now, with this, he is able to get some different move sets called touchdown bounce here, and which can actually help him deal more damage, while also help him restore HP, as well as get up his attack power in general. So truly do know he's going to be very, very dangerous, especially if you want to get him, and he has a lot of things to at least go in his kit. Now, with him, of course, you're going to be running most likely another 5-star here, which is actually the newer people here, and I don't know her name just yet. She's one of the other few units that I would definitely say you want to go ahead and check out, because she's going to help out with this shock team itself. Now, the other character that we do have alongside him is going to be Closer, in which Closer is literally meant for shock DPSing here. So since he does have a shock move here, he can actually utilize that to help out Closer a little bit more and overall have a nice shock team. Now, if you want something more well-rounded, you could of course use Skull, BUI, and Morgana, in which using these three will help you more as a combo team. It would actually be very, very helpful in the long run. All right, so going ahead and checking out Fox and Goemon over here, we have our first Ice Defender, which is going to be fairly interesting, because we actually only have a couple of these guys, in which for the Ice Defender selection of this here, we do have Fox being able to use a few moves, one of them called Cold Breaking Attack here, which is a single target move, which based on his defense, he's able to use that as ice damage to an enemy. So the more defense you do got on this man, the more damage he can actually pump out with his ice damage here. Now, you're also able to freeze with his move, and that frost, or at least that freeze that you do to the opponent, could actually ice them for 2 turns. Now, alongside of this, of course, he can use other debuffs that are just immediate freezes here, or even just defense downs in general here. And he also has a counterattack built in his kit. Now, with this counterattack, he's able to actually gain a shield, and it's actually really nice, because along with that shield here, for the next 2 attacks, if they do, of course, get taunted and they attack it, he gains something else, which allows him for his next 2 attacks to be increased by 100% damage, and increase them again by 35%, and the attack is going to be targeted near the group, which is going to be the counterpart of everything. Fairly interesting little kit for him. I'm actually kind of intrigued to see how he can work with certain teams, and it's going to be fairly interesting to see. Now, of course, if you go ahead and take a look at his highlight, aka the special here, he does deal some more ice damage. He's also able to acquire himself a shield here, and that's going to be equal to 73.2% of his defense, and is a permanent shield until it's broken, at least, but pretty much a permanent shield. So you want to make sure you get that up, especially if you're going to be utilizing this guy. Now, his stats are pretty decent. He's a little bit faster than our last few characters that we have already shown. As you can tell, his attack is a little bit lower. His HP is really higher, but definitely when it comes down to his defense, he's definitely a little bit higher than everyone else, because he is meant to be that way. Now, with his passives, of course, he is able to gain himself some shields with 8% defense here that can last for at least 1 turn. And then his other one being creation, as long as he's under a shield, his defense is then increased by 16%. So surely do know that. Now, going ahead and taking a look at Queen here, in her whole kit, we actually have a very interesting kit going with her. Now, she's going to be more of your, I want to say, just your nuke DPS, but she's not going to be ultra too strong. She does have a lot in her kit, but she's also very slow. So her speed's at 98 here. Nothing too crazy about her defense or anything else here, but she has an AoE move, and then the rest are just going to be little bits of single target moves themselves. Now, along with these, of course, she is able to deal this nuclear damage that can give her different stacks. With these said stacks here, she's able to not only just, of course, help herself out by giving her some decent reaches in defense power, but also help herself out with providing others the things that she really does need to do here, which is just going to be defending or just utterly attacking. Definitely going to have some nice little flexibilities with this character here, and she also brings in a heal move as well, so surely do keep that in mind. Be very helpful when you're in the pinch, and I definitely think her passives here, being gathering energy and will, are going to be her favorite little things that you want to kind of mess around with. Now, going ahead and going to my girl. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, this game came out a hot minute ago, and I'm sorry. I will forever be a fan of god dang Futaba here. But we're going to be looking at Oracle and Necronomicon here, or you guys might call her something else. Okay, I know there's multiple names because of the translation / JP and things like that, but she's actually going to be a 5-star navigator. Now, with this 5-star navigator here, she only brings, of course, buffs to boot, and boy oh boy, translating this was insane. First of all, she has a lot of the things to boot here. All of these different little prep times and reaction things will actually help out your overall team, where it either comes down to restoring energy points, which you're going to be needing to actually perform most of your moves or perform your ultimates. But alongside of that here, you're also able to boost up your damage in general with this character, at least as much as possible. Now, alongside this, she also can give you evasion and boost your attack power, so she has a ton. Now, with all navigators, they will have attribute improvement here, in which does pretty much increase the corresponding type damage to different people, which will help you versus whoever you're going to be fighting. So having her at the beginning is going to be kind of cracked. She's really good. Her attack is pretty in the middle ground, which I want to say 100 and above is kind of middle ground, or at least 100 is middle ground. She's a little bit above it. And then she has some pretty decent HP and a flat 100 for speed. So she's not too fast, but she's not too slow. Now, alongside of this, of course, she does have her nice little passives, which is Playfulness and Aftermath, which all do come in handy, especially if you guys are trying to, you know, check out some things you can deal, as well help out your attack power overall. All right, so going into Noir and Milady. Noir and Milady's fairly interesting. Okay, they're going to be a 5-star physical, or sorry, 5-star psychic AoE DPS here, which she's really going to excel in the psychic category. Now, of course, she does have a buff. She has a little bit of a single target damaging move as well, in which those are the things that are pretty darn nice. But the main thing that we're looking at is that psychic move. Now, that psychic move is going to at least cause enemies to have special treatment. I think you can really use that at kind of like a little bit of confusion here, in which with this, she's not only going to be dealing some nice damage, but she can get the enemies to a confused state, to a point where you're going to be kind of free for at least a couple rounds. Now, at least there's 3 rounds when it does come down to that special treatment being the debuff there, and it's going to be kind of crazy to deal with. Now, alongside this, of course, she can at least give a companion a shield, as well increase their attack power and defense power with the effect rate and the effect rest here. So yeah, she kind of does it all, and she's really going to be a crazy unit to get. Now, with her passives, Load and Tenacity, she does some interesting things here. One of them helping out with the attack power bonus here, and converting different things into her attack power, or into attack power in general. And the other one is actually being able to have a fixed chance on a knockdown enemy to give them special treatment. So she's going to be kind of dangerous. Definitely, I can see her in a supporter role. So if you guys want to kind of use her as an AoE DPS, you could, but she does have some supporter-like aspects. Now, going ahead and checking out Crow and Robin Hood here, we do have a few things that we are going to be doing here, in which with this one here, we're going to be looking at them two to be our blessed single target DPSs. And with this going in, or at least happening here, the allies are actually allowed to get themselves a layer of blessing effect, which can be very, very interesting to say the least. Now, all right, so now we're back. Sorry for the disruption short a little bit, but got that settled. Now we have at least the other moves that he's able to do here. One of them is a actual single target buff here, which is able to apply to one person. Now, the good part about Crow is this man is more of a, he's not a glass cannon, because he doesn't do, like, he does a decent bit of damage, right? But he's more of that character that's kind of in there. He's kind of in there, he's kind of not. He does deal his, of course, damage, which is really, really high for at least his AoE attacks as well. But he really comes in handy when it does come down to his bless or his mark buffs. Now, these blessing effects can also stack to 15 times, and he gets a ton, and I mean a ton of damage off of this. Now, along with having that in his kit here, he's able to deal almighty damage, which I think is one of the only people who can have almighty in the game currently. And this man ignores enemy defense, and if you let him get a hold of you, you might be in some trouble. Now, of course, with his fighting technique here, with his highlight, he's able to ignore the enemy's defense here, dealing more damage with as many blessing stacks that he does have on, which can go up to 10%, or at least 10 stacks in general. Now, alongside of this, okay, the more blessing stacks he does have on for his companions here, he then is able to keep the cooldown reduced permanently for a whole turn, which is absolutely amazing. And that's going to really help you out to at least spam a lot more of his moves. With Justice here, he actually has a 33% chance as well to pretty much make his companions get this blessing effect that will last for 2 turns, which can really help you out, especially when it comes down to those like really fast, just smack up DPS teams. Now, going into the next character here, we have BUI, and whoops, I did not mean to click myself right there, but let's go ahead and scroll back down because we were kind of far down here. But we have BUI here and her persona immediately being another electric buffer. Now, you saw this character with, I think it was Ryuji when I was actually showing him off, and this character is really gonna be capped, or at least crazy. Like, she's really fast. She's one of those characters that will help you get those DOTs off here, while also being to actually give you buffs here. Now, with her, she's able to deal her own damage with an AoE electric hit, and then of course a single target electric hit, but the buff is where she shines the best. She's able to give a person rare seed status, which increases their hit rate as well increases their overall attack, and it will make them actually terrifying. Now, this is also increasing her on her own base percentage and attack as well, so surely do keep that in mind, seeing that her critical hit rate is also going to be increased. Now, this can go all the way to 20.7%, and this will be the best way to use this, especially if you want to get those nice solid hits off. It only lasts for a turn, but it definitely makes itself known when you're able to use it. Now, alongside BUI's skill, she actually has a multiplier, which can actually follow up on attacks as well for 39.2%, lasting 2 turns. Now, with her highlight as well, which is going to be the main thing that you guys are going to be paying attention to when it does come down to this character, she increases the attack power of all her allies and their critical hit rate, and this will last for 2 whole turns, making her a scary buffer to see in general. With her passive, she's able to not only, of course, increase her chance of landing hits here, but also cause shock damage. With Shining, she's also able to give the ally who is holding Rare Seed damage dealt, or at least more damage to an enemy that is 50% HP or lower, and their attack power is going to be 20% higher. Absolutely crazy to say the least with this character. Again, she's really fast, as you can tell by her kit though. HP is pretty decent, but her defense is definitely on the lower side. All right, so now we're starting to get to even more of the newbies here, in which when we're going ahead and checking these guys out, we have Ren and Ming Po. Now, Ren Ming Po is one of the few characters I haven't checked out too much, but boy, oh boy, was she pages upon pages. Same as Riddle, of just straight up us breaking down every last thing. To put it simple, okay, she's able to reduce defense. She's able to, of course, gain these points that will help out in general her damage as well as her speed. She is able to do all different types of things, such as giving even a effect called Oblivion that can be very, very dangerous to be hit with. And then she can also do a few other things near the bottom, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I have to see how she performs in game to fully explain to you how much she can do, because it is insane. I think me and a friend named Lodo was trying to sit here and break this down. This is probably one of the few characters I'm not going to explain here, which you guys can go on my Twitter, go into Discord and try to take a crack at it yourself. Not gonna lie, this was a headache. Her and Riddle are probably the biggest headaches when it comes down to sneaking guides. So if you guys want to pause the video, read it for yourself, definitely do so. But for time's sake, just know she's cracked. Definitely a character that you want to watch out for. Now, of course, we're coming to the other cracked machine here, which is going to be the god dang psychic debuffer over here, and that is Riddle. Now, Riddle had so much things with her first skill, being that she is a damage debuffer here, that I literally just said, hey, there's 4 effects. They all can last for different amounts of turns, being 2 turns here, and she can at least tag it on 1 enemy. Each of those effects being either Factory Puffy Screws, Dada Wrench, Tipsy Scissors, or Weird Candy can actually do something heavily different and really cause an issue to the opponent. So just keep that in mind. Now, alongside of this here, she's actually allowed to reduce enemies' defense here for an actual high tier amount that will last for 2 turns. And then alongside of this, she also can reduce effect res, increase her HP, and it's a long amount of things that she's able to do, and it's actually kind of scary. This character is probably going to be one of the few characters that if you are going to be welling out, you might want to go for her pretty darn well, because she is a debuffer that I definitely feel like anyone should probably try to get on their team, especially if they're going for like long-term Jeopardy type stuff. Now, going ahead and checking out the 4 stars, finally getting to these guys, we have Cattle and Roy being a fire healer. Now, you're mainly going to be doing some fire damage for the most part, but he does have 2 healing moves. One is a single target heal, which does actually base off his attack a little bit here, while also doing some HP percent healing. The other one is an AoE heal here, which heals the entire party, of course, but the main target that he's going to be healing is actually going to be healed even more so. So surely do keep that in mind. Now, Rob has, of course, just regular old 100 speed, nothing too crazy. His attack is a little bit higher, for at least compared to some of the 5 stars. He does have a higher attack and higher HP value. As for everything else, he's pretty dang okay on, not gonna lie. Now, his passives, he has Bright and Hope. Bright helping out one of his teammates here, giving them Starfire, which is actually a decent effect that he's gonna have as well. And then Hope, meaning that he actually takes the max HP and converts into a healing bonus. This can actually be very, very helpful, seeing it go to 14%. Now, going ahead and checking out our next character, which is going to be Yuki. Yuki's fairly interesting as well. Unfortunately, they're thinking crazy with just straight up attack. Their attack is stupid low. As for the defense, I wouldn't say it's too crazy, but they make up for that with at least the skills they do have. Now, all of their skills are going to be based off of their defense here, doing at least some nice blessed damage as well, and then is going to be helped off of the oath state that they have. With oath, of course, here is going to be helping you guys live a lot longer, meaning that you're going to be able to have at least defense, HP shields, and things of the sort. This is really going to help you out, especially when it comes down to, at least, I want to say, trying to make a survival team, or at least doing some of the harder content. Now, this is a 4-star at the end of the day, so do expect it to be kind of meh, but at the same time, I gotta say, the 4 stars in this game are pretty dang decent, especially after working out some of the kinks of these kits and actually checking them out. Now, along, of course, some of this here, you do have Charge, increasing damage, of course, on the skill as well, so you can actually deal some nice things, while also giving an HP shield to everybody, at least on their field when it comes down to the absolute judgment. Now, coming along with at least the passives as well here, I already explained what Oath kind of does here, but at the end of Yuki's turn with Revolutionary here, any party member with less than 30% HP will gain a 17% defense HP shield, along with some blessings which will help them actually last a lot longer. Now, this can only happen once per battle, so you want to make sure this doesn't happen too often, but it will make a huge difference. Now, going on into at least the next character, which is going to be Moco. This one's kind of interesting. I read up on her kit a little bit, but she is going to be a pretty decent buffer here with some nice defense to boot. She's a little bit on the slower side, seeing that she's around 98 here. The HP isn't too high as well, but she definitely gets the job done. Now, she can cause people to have mental state, which is going to be, of course, another confusion type here. And she stacks something called green leaf. Now, with green leaf here, green leaf is really going to be really important, especially when you're working with at least the buff that she gives out, in which every green leaf that you have here is actually going to affect how much you're able to hit as well as the damage dealt. So it's going to be fairly interesting to see this happen. Alongside of this, she's actually able to at least put characters to sleep, which I think is the only character right now that's in the game that's able to actually put different enemies to sleep here and take advantage of that. So fairly interesting to say the least here. She also has a 33% chance to even dispel debuffs, especially on the different characters that you do have on your team. With those 3 green leaves, she's actually able to get that chance to dispel it. So surely do know that. Now, we do have a ton more characters to go, so hopefully you guys are sticking around with it. I'm trying to at least condense this as much as possible here while giving y'all a good gist of what's going on. We're going to be looking at Closer here being a 4-star electric AoE DPS here. And as I did say earlier, this is going to be part of the electric DPS team here. Her attack is kind of meh. It's nothing too crazy. Of course, it's a 4-star. She's at 99 speed, so she's at that middle ground, which is absolutely amazing here, and which she does some decent AoE damage. Now, of course, with her, the real cool thing with her is based on how many times she hits a person multiple times, she can actually deal a lot more damage just by hitting them multiple times in that round. So she has this thing called a conductive state, which actually allows her to deal more damage to that one enemy as long as she has that conductive state. This can get you more of that multiplier of just boom, 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 we're hitting that same character about 3-4 times, and you're going to be stacking up that damage, which is really where she's going to shine. So having her on at least an electric type team is really going to help her out. She has one single target damage move as well, which has a decent percentage, and it can also cause shock. So I mean, like, hey, not that bad. Now, if we go ahead and check out another ice character, which is going to be Soy here, he's going to be another ice defender. I think most of the ice people in here are defenders, except for Mont, as you guys can see at the right here, who is an ice DPS. But go ahead and take a look here. We have our man Soy, who is also kind of lackluster on the attack as well. Now, he does make it up because, of course, he is a defender to an extent, and his defender isn't going to be off his stats. No, his defense is mainly going to be off, of course, the skills that he's able to provide. Now, he's able to, of course, inflict freeze. He actually can help himself out by having his max HP a little bit higher and things like that to help out his defense later on. He also can take down the enemy's defense, which can really help. Now, alongside of this here, he's able to actually use defense reduction on the enemy as well, especially when it does come down to one of his moves at this little bit of a sacrifice of his HP. So think of him as more of a support / defender Ryuji. All right, Ice Ryuji. It's just going to be utterly different. He's going to be sacrificing that HP and things that he needs technically to really help out his team and overall make it a little bit easier. Now, he does have a buff that helps out the overall party, giving them max HP and also giving him the chance of being attacked. So it kind of gives him that semi-taunt aspect, but not really. Now, we do have his first little passive at the bottom here. I kind of ran out of space on the right here, in which he's able to actually have a fixed chance of dealing or at least of dealing 9% max HP additional damage and reducing the enemy's defense by 15% for 3 turns. But alongside of this here, his gun actually does come into play, in which damage is going to be reduced when hitting the same enemy multiple times. Now, that's kind of interesting because if you just go ahead and use his regular just gunshot, you're already dealing some decent regular damage, but you're also able to make sure they can't deal that damage back to you, which is really, really nice. Now, alongside of that, we do have the second, of course, passive, which is going to be called Bravery here. And with using Bravery, or at least having this on him, every time you use Zero Cure, which is his buff, he's able to get himself a 10% chance of higher of triggering Wild Savior for 2 turns. Now, Wild Savior is that one that pretty much gives you that defense reduction for an increased amount for 26.9%. So, of course, if you can trigger that, you're able to sit here and easily keep people down when it comes down to their defense reduction, which is going to be really, really nice. Now, all right, guys, coming down to the last few people here, we have Mont here, which is our first ice DPS here. She's mainly a single target character, but she does have one AoE single target, one AoE damaging move here, which allows her a chance to freeze. Now with this here, she's also able to gain something called ice crystals, which per ice crystal that she actually has on, she can deal a little bit more damage. And then of course, the more she has on, which is going to be based off her ice blade here, she's going to be able to deal some crazy high damage dealt, with the skill being her skill 2, or at least her skill 3 here, which does take 24 SP, but it's still really good nonetheless. Now with her highlight, of course, she's able to deal 224% ice damage on one enemy, which is kind of meh, because it's really good. It's like kind of a nuke, but remember, this is going to be one enemy, and the damage is actually going to be increased as well. So, or at least the attack is going to be increased as well. So it's going to be kind of interesting. Now, the reason why I want to kind of stop right here for a second is because if we go ahead and take a look at Mont here, her attack is 119, one of the highest that we've seen here. And then her speed is right at that middle ground. If you can get this character really built, she's going to be a DPS queen, especially for when it comes down to straight up one-shotting with her single targets. She's going to be one of those 4 stars that you guys really want to be trying to use when it comes down to bossing. Now, with this, of course, she does have our ice crystals and things like that we do need here. And then, of course, with her secondary passive being boundless, every time an enemy is inflicted with being frozen here, she actually has a 33% chance of getting ice crystal once again, meaning she can straight up keep spamming this and getting the max amount of damage that she really does need to pretty much kill anything on the field. All right, so we do have, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more characters to go through. So I'm going to try and make this a little bit quicker here, because we are coming up on that timing that I did not want to go for. We do have Lett. Lett's a actual a wind DPS, which is fairly interesting. Tons of like single target based things itself here. Wouldn't at least AoE type move here, but this isn't going to be too crazy when it comes to this character. Their attack stats are kind of low. The speed's medium. The HP and even defense is actually kind of low as well, but they do take at least account with the inspiration stacks that they're able to get up that crit rate, and then also get some extra instances of damages, which can actually help them out in the long run. Now, alongside of this, you could inflict Winded for 2 turns, which I think Winded in this game isn't like a knockdown status. I think it's actually based on speed, because this is a speed system type game. So Winded could actually be fairly good, and this could actually help them get up to the plate more to actually deal some more damage. But we'll have to look further in that once the game does come out. But this is their whole kit. Now going on to Sophia here being a cursed DPS here. JJK just went in my head, but a cursed DPS here for at least this whole thing here. They also have one of these long skill trees here, or at least skill passives that you guys can look at. Pretty much the overall amount with this here, based on getting certain amounts of stacks with either hatred or verse, this character can immediately become a problem here and actually have a thing to inflict a curse on an enemy, which could eventually actually cause them to die. Now, alongside of this here, he is able to heal or either utilize what the enemies do have on them based on the debuffs that he's able to provide to help heal your team in general and help you out overall. Now, alongside this, with his final move being his 3rd one being romantic drama, he's actually able to help out his all attacks and actually boost those damage as well, while helping out in general with his highlight intro being able to actually deal 33.2% attack with more damage based on the curses that he does have on that enemy. So it is kind of interesting to see that. With Sonnet of Destiny for his passive here, he does get 16.7% more damage when the enemy has a debuff. And then of course, Sonnet of Destiny damage is increased by 2% for each verse. Now, you do want to have verses on him, which are all going to be gained from having 3 hatreds, and then they can get converted over. So this could actually make him pretty darn decent, especially if you can get those up here, but he does have his little lackluster type moments. Now, one of the few characters I was interested in, and I'm kind of sad that he isn't like as crazy as I wanted him to be, and that's going to be Leon here. Now, Leon is fairly interesting. They are also a nuke buffer here, who does have some decent debuffs on here, but mainly just the buffs are what we're going to be looking about, because he's able to provide shields, he's able to heal, he can even displace different HP to make it into a shield to even make them live longer. Now, alongside of this, of course, he can also attack boost certain people on your team here. And then, of course, if the shield does break, he's able to return that shield that was broken over up to the HP. If it does not even break and it just returns gradually, that also transfers to HP, so he does make himself fairly useful. Now, alongside of this here, he's getting himself some nice attack power here, while also being able to deal some decent things with Refining Life being his second skill, getting you some nice shield recovery and helping out with that attack type of deal. Now, he does have, of course, a stacking system, which I didn't go too far in depth here because we couldn't find too much on it, but he does do a justice buff, which does help him out a little bit more to deal some additional damage. Now, we do now have he being our next character here. He is going to be one of them characters that you're going to be using on a fire-based team here, of course, and he will be actually dangerous because based on how many burns or holy fire / sacrifice that he gets on the enemy, he's not only able to, of course, receive max HP, but no, he is allowed to do a lot more damage based on this. He's actually able to even half the damage that enemies can do and utterly help out his skill damage in general. So based if the enemy does have a holy fire on them in general, with at least his third skill, which is flame purification, he's able to deal 30% extra skill damage, which can be kind of crazy. Now, with his highlight, of course, he does have that fire damage on the enemy here, which is pretty dang decent, but a max HP amount of 27.2% here is allowed to be fire damage on them with a 100% base chance to burn. So no matter what, you're going to be burning a person for 2 whole turns, and that is guaranteed. Now, he does have his 2 passives, which is going to be Gift and Miracle. Miracle is more of the HP type of deal that's going to be helping you get more of that fire damage dealt based on your HP. And then, of course, Gift is going to be more of helping out that sacrifice damage that he's able to get, or at least the holy fire damage that he's able to put on enemies to give you way more damage based on the max amount of levels, which can stack up to 8. So surely do think about that. Now, the last 2 characters that we got to look at are going to be navigators here, in which we have Okon here, one of the few characters that I definitely do not want to leave my freaking team, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you know exactly why. Okon over here is kind of interesting because she gives a lot of attack percentage, which is really nice, alongside with some effect hits. You do have to wait at least a certain amount of turns to even get these on here, but it does come in handy. Now, alongside with her doing this, she's able to actually give out HP shields, restore energy to all party members here, and with her third move here, Hot Variations, actually allowed to help out the party's entire damage with their attack points based on how many they actually have. So it's very interesting. And just like all navigators, like I stated earlier, they all have attribute improvement. Now, with their passives here, they have Vitality and Enthusiasm here, which with Vitality, once she's at this point and has 8 beats here, the enemy with the most health will be inflicted with a random debuff. Now, this debuff can be anything, so surely just rack your brain around that. For my Persona people, y'all know exactly what type of debuffs I'm thinking about, and it could actually be those as well. Be very dangerous to deal with. Alongside that, when she actually has Enthusiasm on here, a party member, when they ever use a skill, has an 8% chance to actually get a beat. Now, one of these beats, of course, will help you out, especially when it comes down to at least those buffs that Okon does use to help out the team here, and then also use them against the enemy, giving a random debuff. All right, now this is the last one. Holy crap, I'm tired from talking a little bit here, but hopefully you guys appreciate this thing here. If you do, please do smack that like button with your forehead, consider subscribing. But boy, oh boy, we have Puppet. Now, Puppet and the Merdies here is going to be fairly interesting as well. They're a newer character that I didn't know too much about here, but they're able to provide HP related shields here, which actually help you out a decent bit, alongside increasing your defense here. Now, what she's allowed to do with her preparation time is increase your defense crazy amount here, while also giving you some nice shields here. Now, I think this was a translation error, which I could not figure out what they meant with it. But just in case on her skill 1, if the shield that she puts on your team is broken, you actually get something else in exchange, which will have the prep time actually lowered by 1. So it's kind of really nice to actually have around, but still pretty decent shield, so you probably wouldn't want that to get broken. Now, our second buff, of course, here gives a decent bit of defense as well as an HP shield, while also reducing weakness damage by 20% to a party member. Now, this is only a single party member for 2 whole turns. I don't know why I put an AoE buff. I think I was just losing my mind for a second. But it's a single party member that she's able to do this to. They actually will receive 2 Sea Guards, which also help out with the defense percentage. Now, lastly, with her, she has something called Dawn's Bubble, in which all party members will gain this by 35.1% here, giving them a Sea Guard as well, which is an HP shield for 3 whole turns. Now, of course, when a number of Sea Guards is stacked on the current member and it's above 4%, they're also getting increased damage for 3 whole turns. And in the case that the shield does break, or if the duration is over in general, the damage increase does disappear, but of course you will always have that lingering amount of defense that you already gained. So surely do keep that in mind. But all right, you guys, y'all heard me yap for long enough. I think I didn't skip a single freaking person in here. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash that like button with your forehead. Consider subscribing, man. We are on the road to 2.7k, and hopefully we can hit 3k before the 18th. But till then, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace out.